Good morning, everyone, or afternoon or evening, wherever it is that you're watching us. It's Kate Richburg, and it's Friday, Free Tip Friday from beadshop.com. It's great to have everybody here. We made it through the week, and I have a great wire project for you today. So I'm going to bring our broadcast up on my device here so I can see everybody's comments and all that good stuff. There we go. I just got my notification that we're on. And there we are. And I'm greeted by Tammy Drennan and Gwen Chinanian are watching with me. Yay. Hello. Hello, everybody. It's great to see you all here on Friday. We made it. We made it through the weekend. I'm going to move things around just a little bit, do a little bit of rearranging here so I can see how we're doing. Oh, thanks, Joyce, for it was a nice comment. I thought I'd put my hair back because I got to do my roots. I know you guys can relate. And I thought it was a day for a kicky scarf. So those two things are making my Friday be a good day. So, wire. We're going to continue on our wire odyssey. It seems like we have been doing so much wire on Free Tip Friday and on our Facebook Lives. But, you know, wire is kind of my gig, as many of you know. Wire is one of my favorite things to work with. So I'm just going to continue on this wire odyssey with you guys. Let me see so I can see your comments here. Okay, so great. Oh, it's great to see everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's great. Today's project is a real throwback to a project that we did in at the brick and mortar at the bead shop when we had our stores in Palo Alto and other places here in the Bay Area. Oh, I love it. Some people are watching me and watching the Olympics at the same time. That's awesome. It's going to be like the Olympics of beading today. And Janice is watching. Hello, Janice. Oh, it's great to have everybody here. Great, great. Oh, a close-up of my earrings? I will, Lynn. I'm wearing, this is some of my, vintage jewelry here. I'll tell you a little story about these. I always have a story, right? So I'll tell you the story. But this project, the Herringbone Weave, back when we had the brick and mortar, we had a lot of great guest instructors. And one of our instructors, her name is Chris Silva. Chris used to teach a lot of wire with us. Heavy gauge wire was really her jam. She loved to work with heavy gauge, wiring, wrapping, hammering, all kinds of great stuff. She is a very accomplished wire worker. But this was one of her signature pieces, signature classes that she taught for us. And she let us post it up here on our website and stuff later so we could share it with everybody. So if you go where you can find this, and if you haven't explored on beadshop.com, I've got my computer here just to my right. If you go on to beadshop.com and you go to our projects section and you keep scrolling down the projects, you're going to see a little box that says class handouts. Now I know some of you have seen our class handouts before and have used our class handouts before, which is great. But those of you who are fairly new, that's a great category to explore if you haven't already. Our class handouts are leftover, well, not leftover, but are carrying over from our bead shop days. And they're some of our favorite classes, and so you can download them. It's a great handout, and you'll learn different things step by step. And one of these, the Herringbone Weave, it's a 17-page, and there's our Gita. Thank you, Gita, for linking that. One of those handouts, it's a 17-page handout that has great samples, all made by Chris Silva. Really beautiful necklace ideas. Really, really great ideas there. So I hope you'll enjoy it. You're going to see me today work with a couple of different gauges of wire. I'm going to give it my own spin. I love this herringbone weave. Always have. Think it's a really fun and interesting project to work. It's a great way to use up some of your leftover beads and stuff like that. So without further ado, let me move this camera around so you can see what I see. So it's going to be a little goofy, right? Oh, and someone, my ring. Yes, I've got my eye on you. It's my glass eyeball, my lampwork bead glass eye. So I'm watching you. I'm watching you today. So it's a little creepy, isn't it? I can see that. My eye ring and me. It's like 3. Oh, well, what are you going to do? All right, let me turn this around so you guys have my view. The camera's going to be a little shaky until I get it to that spot, so bear with me, and we will jump in and get started. I'm going to turn this camera. You can see there's all my tools. There we go. It's making that funny noise there. You can see. There we go. Oh, you guys are really sweet. It's Friday, so, you know, I'm doing the best that I can. So I kind of picked up what was ever laying across my chair to wear. So, but you guys are real nice. Let me see if I can get this. Sorry about that camera movement. I hope I don't give you guys too much of a, there we go, too much of a seasickness here as I move this camera around. So thanks for bearing with me with that. Oh, Cody, that's great. A nice day in South Carolina and me live. Oh, well, you're real nice. Okay, so here are my hands. You can see everything. Maybe I'll take my eyeball ring and set it off to the side so it's not freaking people out too much that I'm watching you while I'm going, but I'll put it back on when I'm done. Okay, so let me show you what I'm going to use. And as I said, after this broadcast, or you can see Gita's and Janice's links that they made. You can download this handout a little bit later and follow along. But hopefully I'm going to give you guys some good tips about doing this. All right. Oh, there's Suzanne. She's on her way to finish Lapland to your ski holiday. I think that your ski holiday sounds fantastic. Today in Redwood City, California, I don't know, it's warm. It's going to be a nice warm weekend. It might even get up into the 70s, which is really, really beautiful. It's beautiful and blue sunny. And we also see our friend Brenda Schwader, the proprietress of Now That's a Jig. That's awesome. Awesome, awesome. Welcome, Brenda. It's always good to see your little smiling face there on the other side. It's great to have you. And just a quick plug for Brenda. Some of you may watch Brenda's broadcast. She broadcasts on her Brenda Schwader page and does a lot of great wire wrangling with her Now That's a Jig. And she uses stainless steel, dark stainless steel wire, which is fantastic. So you may want to check her out and give her a follow. If you love wire, she is fantastic. Okay, so let me get a little closer in here so you guys can see. This is the piece that I did earlier, the Herringbone Weave. And the cool thing about the Herringbone Weave here is you can really adapt it to whatever size of beads that you like. This I've chosen the 6mm, and it's the matte Adventurine in 6mm. You can use larger beads as well. I'm just going to reach right behind me here and grab the 8mm. This is the 8mm matte Adventurine round. That would also work well. But when you're choosing your wire for this project, you just want to choose your wire that kind of matches whatever bead you're using. The 6mm, I've used 24 gauge here. You could also use 26. I have a 26 gauge sample that I'll share with you. And this larger bead, this 8mm, you could use 24, would look great. Or you could even pop up to 22 gauge, whatever works for you. You know how Free Tip Friday is all about experimentation. So that's what you do. Experiment, get your wire out, and see how things look. Okay. Yes, do check out our friend Brenda. Her jewelry is so fantastic. She is a great designer. Let me talk a little bit. Let me get the camera angle out a little bit more, and let me just talk about the things that I'm going to be using today. And again, you can go right into your own stash and see what it is that you might have. But what I'm using, all stuff from beadshop.com. Our 6mm matte aventurine. I grabbed our strand of hematite. It's our hematite rondelles. We've got a bunch of different colors of these wonderful little, what do I want to say? Wonderful little nuggets, little beads there. And the ones that I have here, I'm going to look them up real quick because I don't want to get the wrong title off of them. These are our, as I scroll around, these rondelles, they have a really nice hole, so you could use them with a multitude of wire sizes. So let me just put these, here it is. Yeah, it's the viridescent. I wanted to make sure I got the right ones. So this is the viridescent hematite, and it's a 4mm rondelle, which I really love, and I really love this size. And of course, I have a couple of our briolets, and these are the London Blue briolets, and these especially work nicely if you're going to make an earring out of these. And then our canoe ear wires here. Yes, Janice was right on it, the viridescent. I get these and the azure mixed up all the time, but any of our hematite rondelles or any of our fine gemstones would be awesome. So the way that we start, let me just show you kind of the basics of this design, and then we're going to kind of go a little, I don't know, we're going to go a little off course and do some little experimenting. So let me get this a little bit tighter so we can see what's going on. And I'm going to start with this 24 gauge wire. I've got the 24 gauge wire right here. This is our just silver tone 24 gauge wire, dead soft, easy to work with. And I'm just going to take a bit of wire. Oh, thank you, Karen. I am better. You know, when we have, I've had a little bit of a touch of a cold that I got in Tucson, but you know how it's the end of a cold, you always want to cough. So, still a little bit of a cough, but I'm doing all right. And if you do have, I did see that there were a couple of comments, or a comment that the video keeps stopping. You know, it looks pretty seamless on my end, so what you want to do is jump in and maybe click out of the Facebook Live broadcast and then click back in. Sometimes that really helps. It just kind of refreshes your feed. It really just depends on how your reception is for your Facebook stream. Okay, so I've probably been a little overly generous with this wire length, but what Chris's directions say and what she used in her piece, she used a larger nugget. This is a 6mm bead, so she maybe used about a 12 or a 14mm nugget. It was pretty big, or a round bead. Maybe it was a 10. Anyway, it just depends on the size bead you're using. I'm just reading some of your comments. Yeah, you know, I don't know why we've had some issues lately with comments marking as spam. I'm not sure if that's a new logarithm or something happening with our Facebook Lives, but rest assured, I can see you on my side, and I think everybody else can see you. I'm sorry if you're having reception issues, but again, you can always watch our replays on our Facebook channel, or they also get uploaded to our YouTube channel, so it's a good way to watch uninterrupted at a later time. So sorry if you guys are having a little bit of broadcast reception issue. So the tools that I'm going to use, you guys, are just our regular wire working, kind of the five, the important five, or the big five, or whatever it is I want to call them. I've got, of course, my beloved Zuron flush cutters, my maxi shear cutters. Pardon me. And I've got my round nose, my nylon jaw plier that I'm going to use for straightening wire. And it's really important to do that with this project, and you'll see why as I'm working with it. I've got some flat nose pliers, the regular chain, and the bent chain. So that's what I'm using tool-wise. So let me move these guys around. So I'm going to come down, I don't know, maybe about 2 inches from the end of this wire, and I'm going to make a right angle bend. Okay, and I've got a nice good right angle. Let me get in a little bit tighter so you guys can see. And then just a regular wire wrap, you guys. I'm not going to belabor this too much because you've seen me do this again and again, and the handout goes over this really well also. But I'm going to come in with my round nose. I'm going to bring my wire up and over the round nose plier. I'm going to drop it down to the bottom jaw and then pull that wire underneath and center that loop. So when you look at it straight on, we've got that little round loop and that little flyaway scarf. Okay, we've got that perfect loop ready to go. Deanna, I agree with you. These 5 tools are really, in my opinion, the basics that you need for wire wrapping. You know what I mean? You learn how to use them and you learn how to do different things with them. These are really your basics for sure. Now I'm going to come in, I'm going to hold that loop flat right in my chain nose, right here. And I'm going to hold it stable. And I'm going to wrap with this long piece around my main wire here. Now, the number of wraps that I make is going to directly affect how many herringbone wraps I'm going to do. So I want to do 3 wraps like this one. So I'm going to make 6 wraps down the little neck of the wire. Okay? So, and when I'm wrapping, you guys, and this is what I tell, and a lot of you have done some wire wrapping and know this already, but if you're just starting out, I want you to ease up on the death grip on the wire, okay, and on your plier. Notice how I'm not like grabbing this like it's a lifeline. I'm just holding the wire kind of gently, or the tool kind of gently in my hand. And to my view, let me move over a little bit. Tracy, this is 24 gauge I'm using right now for this 6mm bead I'm going to be using. I have this wire that I'm wrapping around right on the horizon line, and I have this wire coming up at a right angle. This is going to make my wrapping a whole lot easier for me to come in. There I've laid my first wrap. Let me see if I can get in even tighter so you guys can see that. Okay? And I'm going to come in again, lay my second wrap. Can you see that there? Manny, I agree. It is easier said than done. I do have to remind myself not to have such a death grip on my wire all the time. It's my mantra in my head. Ease up on the death grip. And notice, you guys, I'm wrapping with my hands here. Okay? I could grab my chain nose plier, and my chain nose plier could help me get that wire around. But sometimes I feel, especially with thinner gauge wire, it's a little bit easier for me to manipulate with my hands. So I'm coming around with my 4th wrap, and notice, you guys, how I'm grabbing my wire down here at the end. I'm not jumping up on it up here at the very top. Okay, so that's, I think that's 5 wraps. And now I will go to my 6th wrap. Okay? And there are 1 little wrap right against the other. And if I need to, I can come in with my bent chain and I can just gently coax them all together if there's any space. Gently being the operative word here. Okay. If my loop gets a little wonky, a little out of shape, I'm going to reshape it right at this moment, putting it back over my round nose plier. Whoops, let me get back into frame. Sorry, let me get that a little bit wider. Get that back into frame. And see, I can kind of round that back up. Now we've got our nice little wire wrap, and I'm going to come in, hold my wire so it doesn't fly up into my eye, and snip it away with my wire cutter. Yeah, I think Debbie might, well, at least today, you know, my favorite wire is 24 gauge, but sometimes I like working with a thinner gauge like I did the 26 gauge with the freeform heart. Was a lot of fun. And then sometimes I like working with big, heavier gauges if I'm going to be hammering. I'll go up to an 18 or a 16 or even a 14 gauge. Okay, so you can see I used my bent chain nose to tuck that little end in, and that bent chain really helps me to get all of my wire back in. Sorry you guys, I'm noticing on the film my hands look super ragged. It's from weeks and weeks of doing a lot of heavy metalsmithing work, so sorry about that. I just finished a competition piece and teaching in Tucson. My hands have been at the buffing wheel, that's for sure. So sorry, I'm looking, they're working hands today for sure. Cindy, Cindy asked, do you angle or flush cut the end of the wire? It's a great question. I use my flush cutters, but I do come in at a slight angle, Cindy, so when I come in and use my pliers to kind of push that little end in, that little angle helps it to just sit in nice and flush. That's a great, great observation. So what we want to do is we want to meet this, or match this side to this side. And I just know these pliers pretty well, so I know that if I grip it about right here with my plier, pardon me, the wraps that I do on this side will match the wraps that I do on that side. You could also use a Sharpie marker, right, to mark your little point there so you're always getting it at the right place. So let me go ahead and I'm going to bend. And you can also do at this point kind of a visual check, and you can say, yeah, visually this side and this side, they look pretty equal to me. Okay, so up and over again with my round nose. There's my round nose, and again I want this loop to be the same size. I know these pliers pretty well, so I know that if I bring it up and over about here, they're going to match. And you can decide whether or not you want your loops to be on the same plane, facing up, or one going one way and one going the other. Okay? This one, and you could always turn them, right, if you want. But now you can see I can check my loop and I can go, yep, that loop looks okay, that loop looks okay, we're all okay. Now, I get super excited at this point, right? And I go, great, I'm going to start wrapping. Yes, yes, super excited. But you know what I forget to do? If this is going to be an earring, I need to add that ear wire at this point. Especially this one. This one's from our site. This one's called Canoe. It's a sterling silver wire. Whoops. But the loop on this Canoe wire is soldered. So there's no way to attach it unless I want to attach with a jump ring. So I want this all to be together with no open loop. So I'm going to attach it at this point. Emily just jumped on. Hello, Emily Miller. It must be her break time. I'm going to flip this one right over here so it can all go. Let's see. Come on. Stop giving me sass, loop. want to slide it on. Why am I having trouble? There we go. Sorry, you guys. This ear wire, Lisa, we call this one our canoe ear wire. I really love it because the loop is kind of hidden in back, so you don't have a long loop at the bottom, so it makes for a little bit of a shorter earring. And since this herringbone weave is a little long, I think it's a good choice for it, so it doesn't add a whole lot of length to the piece. So now this ear wire is going to kind of be in my way a little bit, and I want to actually close that loop up just a little so it's not so gigantic. And I'm going to close it. See how I'm holding it here with my chain nose nice and tight so the loop isn't going to move around. And that's going to hold, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to lay those 6 wire wraps on down. That's 2, that's 3. And the tension, I'm holding some tension in this while I wrap, you guys. I'm going to hold it this way and a little bit of tension. There we go. Gita, I can see your comments coming through just fine. So I'll go in after the broadcast and unmark them if they're not unmarked already, your comments. I know it's super frustrating, but I know I can see your comments. If anyone else wants to comment, if they can see Gita's links and comments, that would be great. Now, what I'll do here, let me open this up a little bit, and you can see with that wrapping, see how my wire is a little wonky, right? It's a little wavy. This is when your friend, the wire straightening plier, really comes in handy. So I'm going to get that nylon jaw plier, hold on to this piece, and straighten. This is really important because as we wrap, as we do that herringbone, we want this wire to be nice and straight and even. Okay, this ear wire is getting a little bit in my way, but I'm going to be the boss of that sucker and just control it. So let me get a little bit tighter here. Now for the herringbone weave. Okay, can you see how my wire is coming up? It wrapped and it's up here like so. There's a definite front and a back to this wrap. Okay, so this is what's going to be the front of the weave. Okay, so I'm going to come around. I'm going to kind of shape my wire around the side of the bead here. Okay, now I'm going to hang on to this and I'm going to do one full wrap so my wire is in that same place. Can you see that? How I've come up, I've wrapped around, wrapped all the way around my original wrap, and now my wire is in place to come around the front again. See that there? So this is my first herringbone. Okay, so I'm going to come around, wrap it again, and sometimes it kind of helps if you turn it because you can see if you're in the right position. But see how again my wire's getting a little wavy gravy here, right? So I'm going to come in with my wire straightening plier, my nylon jaw plier, give it a little straighten. Okay, what you can also do, I think this is a great tip and it helps. I straighten and I curve at the same time. Okay, so see how that helps me to place my wire kind of in the right position. I see a couple of questions about attaching this piece to the ear wire with a jump ring. And yes, by all means, you certainly could. I like to have my wraps be all-inclusive, so there's no opening there, but you could certainly attach it with a jump ring if you wanted. Now notice here, I've got a little bit of space there that I actually don't want to see. So I'm going to unwrap this just slightly. I'm going to straighten this out. I'm going to recurve just a little. And then I'll try it again. All the while trying to hold this fairly lightly. I want it visually tight, but you don't want it so tight that your wires are not going to lay side by side. And see, if they're not laying side by side at this point, get the tip of your chain nose and just say, hey wire, lay right there. You might need a little bit of extra space, a little bit of, as Janice likes to say, air, so that the wires lay side by side and not cross over. Okay? I'm going to bring my wire around, swoop it around, and let's form it again. A little straightening won't hurt, and we'll bring it around that little. See, if it's not exactly straight, that wire's going to fight you. So really get that in there. Straighten things out really mindfully, and bring that sucker around. There we go. Okay. Place it, curve it around. Okay. And again, if I need to kind of fix it a little bit, fix it at this point, at the point that it needs fixing. Okay, so we've got two wraps so far. Okay. Let's go for our third wrap. This ear wire is going to be the death of me. But you're in charge. You're the boss. So let's scoot this around. Again, there's that little wave in there. If your wire's not completely straight, especially with this gauge, it's going to give you some sass. So just straighten the wire out and see how much nicer it curves when it's straight. Bring it around the front. And see here, I've wrapped it too tightly. See how it wants to go over the wraps that precede it? So let's make sure we're leaving enough room, enough air. There we go. Light hand. And there we go. Bring it around. Get your little chain nose plier before you lock it in place. There we go. And we'll go one last time on this side. Again, we'll pick up that that nylon jaw, bring it around, shape it, and curve it around, and I'll do one more wrap there so it's nice and tight. Make sure that's all laying nicely. This doesn't look too bad if I do say so myself. I love this weave. It can be a little more persnickety, I think, with fine gauge. But you just have to be the master of it. It looks like there's a question. I'll get to that in just a second. I'm at a crucial point here. There we go. Okay. That looks pretty okay, I think. So the question, Linda, you had a question. Do I worry about work hardening that wire too much? That's always a good question to ask. This wire is a dead soft wire. Okay, so just by simply kind of straightening it with our nylon jaw plier, I'll do that here with this thinner gauge because I'm going to use this next. If I just continue to kind of, straighten it here like this, it gives it a little bit of hardening, but enough buoyancy actually, so it stays where I want to put it. Pardon me. So it doesn't work hard in it too much that it's going to break. If this were half hard wire maybe, and I were going, you know, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then wrapping it a lot or bending it a lot, it may break. But for this wire, I'm not worried about it at all. Okay. That's right. Perfect sisters. Sisters in the jewelry realm and not twins. It is true. So now let's add a dangle to this, okay? And I'm going to use, to wrap this briolette, I'm going to use 26 gauge. And I've cut off, I don't know how much wire, 8 inches, 7 inches about of this wire. And let me get in a little bit tighter. We have a great how to wrap briolettes tutorial. But I'm going to do this in a little bit of a messy manner. So it's a little wire heavy because I want a little more of a wire look to this piece. So I'm going to come in, bring my wire up and my wire up. Now again, this is 26 gauge. And this is the kicker, you guys, right here. See, I'm going to get it close so you guys can see it. See this X that crosses up and over the tip of that briolette? This is where you come in with the tips of your chain nose and you squeeze. See how when I squeezed that wire, see how it brought both of those wires together up side by side. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm just going to ignore this short part of this wire. I'm going to come down with this long part, this long end, and I'm going to wire wrap just like I did before, catching this short piece of wire underneath my wire wrap. And this is, we've got a lot of different briolettes, but this is the London Blue briolette, which I just love. I'm going to come up and over. I'm going to flip my plier up. I'm going to come around here. Now, what do we have to do? We have to attach it to our earring. This is also the part where I get super excited that I'm wire wrapping, so I forget to attach it. So let's attach it there. And now I'm going to hold that loop with the tips of my plier, and I'm going to go for it. I'm going to wrap one below the other, keeping some tension, and then I'm going to wrap up and down, and I'm going to start to get a little messy with my wrap. Intentionally kind of free form here. I'm going to use every bit of my wire, and I'm just going to come in and push that little end right in. Now this long piece I'm going to pull down, and so see how I really want to get tight in there so you guys can see it. I'm going to come in with the tips of my flush cutter. I'm going to really make sure that I'm not clipping any other wire and clip that one away. Okay. So now let's take a look at what we've got. I think we've got a pretty darn good earring. And we've got some movement here. I chose to have this loop here at the bottom facing this way, but I could also turn it so it was at the side. Doesn't really make much difference, whatever works for you. Looks like I have to get that little piece of wire right in there. This is when you detail everything to make everything look exactly as you want it. Okay. So you can see how that wire wrap over the briolette, it's kind of controlled chaos, which I like a lot. You can also, you know, do one neat one below the other, but I think that that briolette wrap adds kind of a really nice contrast to that herringbone. Now let me show you guys, I have some, I'll put this aside here. And I wanted to show you, I also have this 26 gauge like I used before. And I want to show you how you could use it. I'm going to cut another 14, maybe a 10-inch piece, I don't know, maybe 12 inches, let's do that. I can't ever decide how much wire to cut. I'm going to straighten it before I cut it off the roll, because holding it on the roll and straightening it gives me a little bit of leverage here. And I'll cut that off. Now, what I'll do, get that out of the way. I'm going to bend, again, that 2 inches. I'm going to go a little bit faster here because you guys saw me do this a little bit more slowly before. I'm going to make a wrap. I'll make that 1, 2. I'm going to do this in 3 wraps. Make that loop all nice. Clip away my extra and tuck it in. Not that tool, this tool. I agree, Manny. Better more wire than not enough. I agree. Okay, so now I'm going to use our little friends, these viridescent hematite. And I'm going to use 5. You could use whatever you wanted, but I'm going to put on 5. Okay? And I think that this is a cool component that goes nicely with, I'm going to add it to this guy, that goes nicely with our little herringbone component. So I'm going to bend enough to make a 3 wrap. Gwen asks, can the nylon jaws on your pliers be replaced? You know, Gwen, that's a good question. You can see my nylon jaws are getting pretty ragged. I find as long as they still work, I use them until they're really pretty ragged. But we can order the replacement heads here for them. That's why we like this Eurotool brand, because you can unscrew these and put new ones in. The only thing when you are replacing the heads, I don't know, they may have changed it now, but sometimes you actually have to drill the heads of these guys to get the little plastic screws in. They may have changed that though, but from back in the day, that's what happened to them. But they are easily change-outable, and we can get the replacement heads. So let me know if you want them and I can get them for you. We can wrap. It's a little bit longer than 3. It's actually 4, but that's okay. We're going to make this happen. And this is 26 gauge that I'm using. It is my mom. That's right. And whatever my mom says she wants, I get. Now notice here, I'm going to be using the wire to wrap in between these little hematite beads. How cute is this, you guys? Pretty darn cute, if I do say. Let's make that all stand up in one straight line. And now I'm going to come back around, wrap it around the original wire wrap, hold it in my plier, and continue wrapping the other direction. Now I can wrap a lot more or a lot less. Just depends on how much wire, it's like a little wire cocoon almost, that I'm making here. Okay, let me get a little tighter. Yeah, Teresa, you should see her jewelry collection. I try and add to it periodically. There we go. And let me go back down. So I was a little heavy-handed with the wire here, but I think it's kind of a cool look, and you can do as much or as little of the wrap that you need. And you guys, I was so super excited about getting this wire wrapped that what didn't I do? I didn't connect it to my piece. What a surprise. I do that all the time because I'm super excited about it. But so you can see I've got kind of a little wire cocoon kind of look, and in between there, so maybe visually it might be a little bit heavy, or we might want to add something else. So with all that wire and all that wire, maybe it needs a pause, right? So let's do, oh, I don't know, Beth, I like having a little bit of extra wire over there. I don't know. Different components, I agree. I like heavy wire. I think the wire is a great part of the design. But you do you, Beth Barton. You do you. Let me come up and over, and let's put another little component in here, okay? And let's connect it. Oh, thanks, Mom. Right back at you. So I'll come in and I'll connect this. Tammy, that's funny. You were shouting out to connect, but I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you all the way on the other side of the screen. That's right. So I'll wire wrap here, and let's take a little bit of a visual pause, shall we, in between all of this wire and wire. Plus, we'll make Beth Barton happy and showcase some of those beads. Okay. So let me put a viridescent hematite. Whoops. Come on now. Get on there. And let's do a 6mm. And another viridescent hematite. So we've got a little bit of a interesting design there, I think. But again, you guys do you, however you want to do it. I'm going to do me. Up and over, down and underneath. And I know you're all shouting, put the component on. So I will. I'll take your advice. I'll hang on to it. And we'll wrap. Okay. And I won't do any wire embellishing over the top, though I could. And you can see, having that little bit of a visual pause in between these two wire-heavy elements, I think makes them both look kind of nice. Let me get a little bit, I'm going to get a little tighter on both of these here. Let me arrange them, and I'll get a little tighter so you guys can see what's shaken with these. There we go. I know it's hard to show that. There we go. That might be a little bit better. Okay. So this would make, I think, a fun earring bracelet pair. I can make my second one. I've got a second briolette over here that I'll add something to. I did want to show you, I made earlier a couple of little practice runs. You know how I always say you need to warm up, you know, before you start your wire wraps. So let me show you a couple of my warm-ups here. This was one that I did with 26 gauge. And so Tilly, you're saying I make it look so easy. Well, you know, I always recommend, you know, it's just like in baseball. You wouldn't send a pitcher out to the mound before warming up. It's the same thing with your wire wraps. Sometimes you just want to make a couple of things to get your hands limber, right? So this was one that I did actually before I came on camera with you guys, and I wanted to share this with you. This is 26 gauge that I did, and you can see the difference between the 26 and the 24. So if you like a little bit of, a little less wire, I guess, than you're seeing with the 24, the 26 might be a good way to go. The 26 also really kind of meshes to the side of the bead kind of nicely. So it's a little bit of a different look, a little bit more of a delicate look. This would be really nice with pearls. Whoops. Pearls or, you know, smaller bead. The 26 gauge would look nice. Then I also kind of was hammering out doing the herringbone. I didn't actually cut enough wire here. So, but you could do this herringbone with stacked little gemstone beads as well. Let me get a little bit tighter so you can see that. See how, let me hold it with my plier so my big hands are out of the way. But I just didn't cut quite enough wire, but it would work. It just needs to do this a little bit more. And yeah, Janice was saying, pardon me, how she'd like it with the with chain as well, and chain also would look great. You could just wire wrap these in between with some chain. And on the handout, if you go and download the handout, you see some of Chris Silva's really beautiful designs that she's added with their kind of asymmetrical with different beads and different chain. I think it's really, really inspirational. Yeah, they do kind of look like little peas in a pod, Manny. That's for sure. I think it's good. So that's it for today. After the broadcast, I will go ahead and write up a quick blog post that has the link and the video embedded, and I'll do a little list of the materials that I used so you guys can see what these were. But I think it would be a fun project for the weekend. I would love to see what it is that you make with these. So do share on our Facebook page or our Bead Shop Facebook group page. I'm going to come in and move this around, and I can sign off. I'll tell you the story of my earrings. I haven't forgotten that. Bring this around. It's a little bit of a movement here, so bear with me. And there we are. There it is. There I am. Let me tighten all this back up. And if you missed it, or if you didn't see the whole broadcast, you can watch it later on our Facebook Live page, right here at beadshop.com. You can also find them on our YouTube channel. We have a whole playlist of our Free Tip Fridays that you can watch over and over and over. You're welcome. I'm so glad everybody enjoyed these. Great. And I did want to share, you guys did ask about my earrings, so I'll show you right up here. Can you see it? Oh, it's really close. Super close. These are a pair of vintage from my vast vintage jewelry collection. And these are pieces, maybe my mom will even recognize these. These are a pair of earrings that belonged to my great-grandmother, my mom's grandmother, Grandma Lily. So we were missing some of these little vintage daggers on the bottom. So I redid them, and you can see that I just got a little crystal bead and repaired everything. So, you know, mixing some new with some vintage, and then I put a fresh new ear wire on it. So it's always fun to use vintage components and give them a little more life. So I thought they'd be a fun earring to wear for a Friday. So yeah, so there it is. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. You can see all the bead wall next to me. I've got a lot of bead wall over there. Let me see. There we go. A little more even now. Alrighty. Well, next week, oh, I'm glad you guys liked them. Thank you. Yep, from my grandma Lily. They were a fun piece that my cousin Kathleen sent over to me a while back. So all of the vintage jewelry in our family somehow lands in my jewelry box, which I am perfectly okay with. So next week, you guys, we have a great project with Emily is doing a wire armature that we have a brand new one from Nun Design, and we're going to start rolling out our Nun Design components, which are going to be great. So check out the, they'll be up on Tuesday. You can kind of get a preview of that, and then we're going to play with some more wire on Wednesday on Facebook Live with Emily. And then we've got the following week, we're doing some more wire. February just turned into wire month, which I think is awesome. We're working with some heavier gauge and some other beads, doing some more kind of individual component wraps to create a bracelet. I'm going to do a clasp. It's going to be a lot of fun. That'll be the last week. And then Janice is going to be joining us. She's coming back from the East Coast, and she has a really great project cooked up incorporating more of our new Nun Design pieces. So we've got some good broadcasts coming up. So that's it for me. Happy Friday, everyone. Enjoy your weekend wherever you are. Be creative. We've got a couple of new projects that are up on the website, our Farmers Market Wrap. You might want to check those out. The inspiration was some Farmers Market photos I posted on our bead shop bead table group, and one of our group members, Allie, created a really beautiful piece that inspired me to create a piece, and I'm going to be posting more Farmers Market photos this weekend. So if you do find inspiration in any of those photos and make a piece, we'd love to see it. Alrighty, that's it. I'm just checking, making sure that we're all good. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next week on Facebook Live. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.